What if bleeding gums, bad breath, or recurring cavities are more than just a brushing issue and often signal deeper imbalances in your gut? Today, we reveal how the health of your mouth directly shapes your digestion, your immunity, and even your energy. We are wrapping up, our three-part oral health series with Heather the Hygienist, a biological dental expert who has shown us why the mouth is one of the most important, powerful windows into and tool for your overall health. So, Heather, before we connect the mouth to the gut part, can you start by explaining what the oral microbiome actually is, and why it matters so much and why we should pay attention?
Absolutely. Well, we have one tube. It starts in our mouth and it goes all the way out us. So digestion and everything starts in our mouth. Your oral microbiome is home to like 800 different bacteria, fungi, everything that works together in harmony. So it helps when the good guys are flourishing, but when the bad guys start taking over, that's when you'll notice certain changes in your mouth that you really need to be paying attention to. So we want to make sure we have a balanced oral microbiome because this is where immunity starts. This is where digestion starts. So you really want to make sure you do things to help the good bacteria and not the bad.
Great. So appreciate that setting that foundation. And before we go a little bit further, I just want to remind everybody who's with us, both on the video and live and on our replays, you're watching or listening to Well Wave Now. And this is where timeless wisdom meets modern insight to help you live better physically and hopefully do so for longer.
So welcome back, Heather. It's great to see you again, and excited to wrap up this series that we started with you. When people think about oral health, you picture a clean, minty, sterile environment, right? But you've just told us that that's not really the truth. You have all of these microbes that are there that are working together to support our digestion, support your immunity, and even some inflammation control is in there too as well. So, very interesting concept, right? It's a change from that minty fresh breath that we think about. So Heather, what does that balance of oral what does that look like for you, and what is the day how is it affecting your day-to-day health?
Well, it is a good question, and I think it's something people kind of need to start paying attention to. So when everything is balanced, everything is healthy. You don't have bleeding gums, you don't have white patches on your tongue, you're not developing ulcers. Chronic inflammation is really the root of pretty much all disease, including starting in the mouth. So if your gums are red and swollen, if you're having persistent bad breath, if you're having a lot of mouth ulcers, all of these things can be signs that something isn't right. And again, true health starts right here. So I think people need to be paying more attention to what is going on inside of their mouth, the products that they're using, and take a deeper dive into what their own mouth is showing them as far as their health is concerned.
Yeah, let's look at that for just a minute. So that ecosystem can get disrupted by diet, stress can affect it, illness. You can get dry mouth, or even the certain products that we're using. That was probably the biggest eye opener for me. Is we use these certain products that we're doing all this good for our mouth, and we're actually killing off all the good things in there. So what are some signs that people shouldn't ignore?
Well, definitely the bleeding gums, the persistent bad breath. I think a lot of times GERD or even silent reflux goes undetected in many, many people. So if you're having, say, persistent bad breath, you really want to see what's going on with your digestion. Silent reflux is a little trickier to diagnose because a lot of times the people don't even know that they have it. So persistent bad breath, the white coating on the tongue, some erosion going on in the teeth. These can all be signs that there might be an actual issue going on, whether it be IBS or the silent reflux. And GERD, most people know that they would have GERD, but silent reflux.
So Heather, let me stop you there for a second. So GERD, you refresh me and others on what GERD really.
GERD is a common condition that people get when it comes to reflux. It's the acid control because acid keeps coming up from the mouth into the throat, into the mouth. So that's that reflux that people know that they have. You know when it's burning, when it's coming up. But silent reflux is a little different. It's not, doesn't have the typical signs that GERD does. Silent reflux, a sign in the mouth could also be burning tongue syndrome. That would be more of a clue that they need to have that checked out, because that is very, very detrimental to their oral health. And again, that disruption of that good bacteria in your mouth, there's always consequences systemically to that.
Right. And so I think that systemic portion is what people I think don't often realize is
Hmm.
that those early signs can mean that it may not be local and maybe go into deeper imbalances, especially in the gut as you're relating to. And now tying to that, we hear a lot about this gut microbiome, but few people realize how heavily that's influenced by the mouth. And like I say, every time you swallow, you're sending that oral bacteria, like your one tooth, throughout the body thing, saying that oral bacteria, good or bad, downstream into the gut. So if that oral microbiome is out of balance, that imbalance can ripple into the gut all day long and throughout.
Yes. And so it's very important people don't do things like use products containing alcohol, which are disrupting that oral microbiome. Even fluoride is a disruptor to the oral microbiome. Things that you can do to help promote good bacteria would be chewable probiotics. I like the Probiora. It comes in mint and orange chewable. So you really want to chew that, work that into your saliva to help support where digestion starts and to kill the bad bacteria, keep everything in balance. So make sure the products that you're using don't contain things that are purposely going to disrupt what's happening naturally inside your saliva. Your saliva is amazing.
Yeah, fantastic.
And
Mhm.
you talked about the, bleeding gums being a really key sign, right? And just brushing for sure, but also when someone flosses regularly, is it common to have just a little bit of bleeding, or should there never be any bleeding?
If I were to touch you on your arm and your arm started to bleed, even if I touched you a little bit, is that normal?
Mhm.
No, it's not normal. It might be common for people, but it isn't normal. Bleeding is always a sign of infection. Your gums should never bleed. If you have a healthy mouth, a healthy oral microbiome, this isn't going to be happening. I will say that the number one mistake people make when flossing is they don't go all the way down like they should. They kind of pop the floss in between the teeth. They use those cheater sticks. They think they're flossing. You have to get all the way down underneath the gum to make sure you're getting out that bacteria that is forming as part of our saliva on a daily basis. So you have to remove the bad bacteria that grows there every single day. And, unfortunately, we have 100 million Americans that don't even brush their teeth twice a day, nor do they even go to the dentist. So, cardiovascular disease being the number one disease in America, there's a direct link, right? From the mouth to the heart to everything. Like I said, we have one tube. It starts here. There is not a separate compartment. There's no fence that stops this bad bacteria from getting into your organs, from
Great.
getting into.
So you connected there and connected the bleeding gums and other part into potential cardiovascular disease. But what symptoms most reliably point to gut involvement?
Well, the persistent bad breath, I think, is if you're having halitosis, bad breath chronically, despite brushing, flossing, scraping your tongue, there could be a systemic issue, maybe with silent reflux or even GERD, that should be evaluated. So, definitely look into that. Maybe mouth ulcers. Sometimes people getting these unexplained ulcers in the mouth, that could be a sign. But, if your body is fighting like a low grade infection, everyone's body is different. So for some people, that might manifest as they're feeling fatigued or brain fog. For other people, it might manifest in a different direction. But we do know that chronic inflammation is really the root of pretty much all disease. So we want to address where is that inflammation coming from? And it's extremely easy. Within 2 minutes, I can tell when looking in someone's mouth when I take my little ruler, it's called a probe. When I measure the space between that tooth and the gum, if it's a healthy space, the number would be 1, 2, or 3. There's no bleeding when I do that. However, I can take that same probe, and if there's infection going on, I'm going to get a deeper reading. and there's going to be bleeding when I touch it. That tells me immediately we have infection going on in the mouth. So, a blood test, like a CRP test, that's a really good indicator for chronic inflammation inside of the body. And I think it's not a typical blood test that you would have done. You would need to ask your primary care doctor specifically to have a CRP test, but it is a very good marker to know whether or not, if it's over 1, it's high, right? I think Dr. Bob can probably talk a lot more about that, but we want to see if there is some systemic inflammation going on. And so many times people just don't even think about the mouth as the place to start.
Yeah, Heather, Dr. Bob was dying to ask you a question. He's got his hand
Yeah,
up and everything,
I think that's Dr. Bob ringing in.
ringing in for his question.
Yeah. Well, so you talked about a couple of things. You talked about cheater sticks. Are they good for anything? Because a lot of people use them and they're sold a lot. So what would you say about them? Are they good for like removing stuck particles between the teeth or something? Or
Maybe cleaning your fingernails. If it's not your main way of flossing, if you do have something stuck real quick, sure. But you have to remember, and yes, I know, Tim, you're going to say, here I go again with the poop analogy, but our teeth do poop. So brushing only gets off 60% of that. The rest is in that toilet bowl, that space between your tooth and your gum. So if you use a cheater stick and you're sitting there going on every single tooth, it's like reusing toilet paper. That's gross. You are literally taking bacteria, one part of your mouth, and you're just moving it all around.
Gotcha.
I'm going to start calling you Heather the poop specialist.
I knew you can't let that go.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you about was scraping the tongue. You mentioned that, but didn't say anything about that. How important is it to scrape the tongue? How do people do it? What kind of a tool do you use? Could you say something about that?
That's a great question. First thing, when people wake up in the morning, they should scrape their tongue with I like a stainless steel scraper. And you want to get it all the way back. You'd be amazed.
Is that the curved thing? Stainless steel's curved?
It has it's kind of like it has a circle, almost like a long eye of the needle thing that's made out of stainless steel, and it has a handle, and you can just scrape the tongue. And I'm telling you, I do it every single morning. It's just crazy what comes off. But yes, bacteria gets on the tongue. And so that should be done every day. And then after you scrape your tongue, brush your teeth. First thing in the morning.
Is that good bacteria coming off the tongue or bad bacteria or both? Or they don't compartmentalize themselves, make it easy for you to get the bad ones?
It's all mouth poop, evidently. So
exactly.
yeah.
It's back. It's everything is excreting at night, right? I mean, that's why you have bad breath in the morning. Your teeth are organs, they're alive. It's like excreting. So all of that bacteria it comes out in the mouth. That's why it smells. So you want to clean that off so you're starting fresh in the morning and you're not swallowing that nasty bacteria and having that get into your system either.
So Heather, for our listeners that may have an imbalance, or their microbiome is off, what would be indicators that they've got it back in line? What are some things that they might feel overall in health, especially focusing on the gut? Would it affect, bloated or
less gas, less bloating, less reflux? I would imagine that when you have things balanced, I mean, you're just going to feel better in general. I think we're so maybe as a society used to feeling kind of crappy, and we're all looking for that magic elixir that's going to give us energy and just be, our health answer. But we have to do things to be healthy. I mean, you can say you want to, be healthy, but if you eat McDonald's and you never exercise, you don't get enough sleep, are you ever going to be healthy? I mean, we all have to make those steps towards being healthy. So if people would take the step of going to the dentist, brushing their teeth 2 minutes twice a day, using manual floss. And I mean, it's 1 minute and 1 second to use manual floss. So I'm asking for 5 minutes a day of someone's time, right? 5-minute gums instead of, 6-minute abs, it's 5-minute gums. So that way you can make those steps to being healthy, because we can eat right, we can exercise, we can do all of those things. But if you have disease in the mouth, are you healthy? You are not. You have systemic disease.
And I think I know you're absolutely right. If you don't have a healthy mouth, it will spread throughout the body. I have an anecdote for you. A woman I know had a major ill health and all kinds of complications and a real mess. I don't need to go into all the details, but it turns out her oral health was awful. And when we got that taken care of, it's amazing how much other things cleared up as a consequence of that, which is a beautiful, number one, testimonial for the importance of oral health. And number two, this person was not getting better with any other conventional or alternative care until the oral health was handled. So kind of a beautiful thing to when people understand. And a tongue scraper is really cheap. It doesn't cost very much. Floss is really cheap. It doesn't cost very much. So it's great. Now, the other thing is, what about water picks?
Water picks are great. They just don't replace manual floss. Nothing replaces manual floss. It's a good adjunct. So for those people that have those deeper pockets that I mentioned earlier with anything deeper than 4, those pockets can't be accessed with manual floss. So that's where a water pick would come in handy to help remove the bacteria that is in the space deeper than floss can reach. So it's a great aid, and it's essential for someone that has periodontal disease. Do you want me to explain the difference between gingivitis and periodontal disease? Because I don't think people understand that.
Sure, go ahead, Heather.
Yeah.
So gingivitis, everyone's pretty much heard of that. That's inflammation of the gums, but the bone, the jawbone, is still healthy. Gingivitis is completely reversible, takes about 9 to 14 days to get, and about as long for it to go away. However, left untreated, it can turn into periodontal disease. The difference being bone loss. Now that nasty bacteria is rotting away at your jawbone. You are losing the bone. This is your foundation. If we get a sinkhole in our house, do we care about decorating it and painting it? We do not. You fix the foundation. Your bone is your foundation for your teeth. If you lose your bone, you lose your teeth. Treat the inflammation when it's still reversible, because once it starts eating the bone away, it's active disease. Yes, we can get you to remission, but it's very difficult to stay there because you've had this active disease process just eating away at your bone. Now, there's consequences to bone loss. It doesn't hurt until the very last stage because your bone has no nerves. But the signs and symptoms are bleeding, either when you brush or floss your teeth. Sometimes a bad taste or odor in your mouth, loose, shifting teeth. These are all signs that there could be periodontal disease going on. So that's why I don't want people to wait to go to the dentist. Don't wait till you feel a problem, because by the time you feel it, it's really too late.
Okay, great. So you've got that. I'm appreciate that caution there that you've got to people. But now let's see if we can tie it back if it ties back the gut here a little bit. So what's going on when people if they're losing, if it's gotten so bad they're losing bone, what other parts of the body is that affecting? Is it hitting the gut hard?
It's hitting everything. If you have active periodontal disease going on, it's in your bloodstream. It will affect your organs. That is why it can cause heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, pancreatic cancer, colorectal cancer, Alzheimer's, and dementia. So everything is connected. And yes, if we have a leaky gut, that's more of an opportunity for this bacteria to go unchecked. So we need a healthy gut to have a healthy mouth. Everything is connected. We can't have one without the other. So there are consequences to everything. If you have rotting bone inside your mouth, how is that not going to affect your overall body? Of course it is. The bacteria, in fact, the results that they were doing from studying Alzheimer's patients, there is a bacteria, and it's Promorpheus gingivalis or something huge. It's called the PG bacteria. They were finding that Alzheimer's patients had this bacteria. That is one of the 11 bacteria that cause gum disease. So we can be treating this before we see the symptoms of Alzheimer's by just addressing the mouth. I mean, I'm not saying that is the end all be all, but it is certainly a precursor to being able to ward something like Alzheimer's off. I mean, if I had the marker for Alzheimer's, I would certainly want to know it. And we can actually test people in the mouth with 5 little samples. We can send it to a lab, and then the lab sends us back a report saying, out of the 11 bacteria, you have the PG, you have all these other bugs that are causing this disruption of the oral microbiome. So that's why it's so important to really pay attention to the signs your body is giving you.
I do love this series because it does open so many more doors for us to explore in future episodes. So it's amazing. But You've made it very clear there is a true connection between the mouth and gut, and we want to now get into what to do about it, and what are some habits that can strengthen the good ecosystem that we want to have. And so, in our next segment, we're going to dive into that. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. Are you tired of painful injections or expensive prescriptions, but you still want to lose some weight? Well, how about doing it all naturally without the hassle? Introducing Brain IQ Fast Melts. This is a revolutionary way to shed some pounds easily. It's less than 1/4 of the cost of a traditional GLP prescription, and you can lose up to 28 pounds in just 10 weeks with no side effects. The leading prescriptions take 40 weeks for similar results, and of course, they do have some side effects you need to be aware of. Outperform the leading GLP prescriptions, lose more weight in less time. Say hello to faster, safer, smarter way to reach your weight goal. Don't wait. Choose Brain IQ Fast Melts and start transforming your body today. Available now. We'll leave a link in the show notes. For our listeners, Heather, now that we kind of understand that connection, let's talk about what someone can do, what they can start with today to help support both their mouth and gut.
I would suggest eating fermented foods, drinking fermented drinks. I mean, there's kimchi, there's kombucha, so many different fermented things out there. So fermentation is fantastic for the gut health and the mouth health for sure. Avoiding sugary snacks. Sugar feeds those bad bugs. Tongue scraping, very important. For people that have either the GERD or the silent reflux, maybe sleeping a little bit propped up and having smaller meals to help with the reflux coming back up. So those are just some simple things that people can do. A diet is key, right? But I would just recommend, eating healthy, having the fermented foods, and staying hydrated.
Do pickled onions fall into that category? I love those pickled onions on my tacos.
I don't know. I guess it depends. Are they fermented really, like healthy, or is there a ton of different nitrates and stuff in there? I guess I'd have to look at what's actually in
I
it.
think it's just apple cider vinegar and water, I think is how they pickle.
Well, if anything is fermented like that, it always is going to have good bacteria in it.
Yeah. So many people, kind of rely on, we touched on this. You may be thinking you're doing a good thing with your mouth washes and your rinses that you may be doing, but so many of those alcohol based, you brought this up in one of our previous episodes, or even the antibacterial mouthwashes are actually doing more harm than good. Explain that.
Well, people think that throwing a nuclear bomb inside your mouth is the answer, like destroy everything, but that is not the answer. You don't want to do those alcohol rinses. Your mouth is the most vascular part of your whole body, so whatever you stick into your mouth is going to get into your bloodstream. So you can do things like coconut oil pulling, right? Xylitol. Xylitol is also fantastic because it raises the pH of your saliva and helps ward off those bad bugs. So just something simple like, coconut oil pulling for 10 to 15 minutes is super helpful.
There's not a reset, like a one-time just nuclear bomb everything and then reset.
I would not recommend nuclear bombing. No.
Okay. All right.
So eating dinner time, if people are sleeping in normal times between 9 and midnight, whatever, would eating earlier and eating a smaller meal help with the GERD, the gastroesophageal reflux, and the silent reflux you're talking about?
Yes. And also aloe. Aloe is such a great healing plant. I personally like the George's brand. That has helped my family a lot. We had one of my twin daughters had a lot of digestive issues. So the George's aloe was a real lifesaver for us in our family. So yes, aloe, smaller meals, staying propped up while you sleep. Those are all things that you can do to prevent that. But don't ignore if you have a burning tongue, don't ignore that. There's a deeper issue going on.
So just to recap for our listeners then, to feed the good bacteria in your mouth, it's not sugar that's feeding the bad, but it would be the proper hydration. It's the fermented foods, and could, choose wisely with your oral care that it's not something that's alcohol based. I appreciate that.
Okay. So now, Heather, when you take those steps you outline there, What are some early indications? Well, how long do you think it takes to change the oral microbiome? And what are some early signs that people say, hey, I'm on the right track or I got to take additional steps?
I think within a few days, people will notice less fuzz on their teeth, maybe fresher breath, maybe even more energy. So once you start reducing inflammation in the body, I mean, generally people start to feel better overall. So I would just say it could vary. For some people, it might take longer. Depends on the severity as well when it comes to inflammation.
And then I'm gonna let you go ahead and give your own little plug here a little bit. Now we talked about the alcohol-based mouthwash in the chat and that nuclear bomb in there, but it probably does kill all the poop in there too that you talk about. but, but you developed your own mouthwash here, and so what was the point of that, and what's different in there, and why is that healthy for the gut microbiome, or for the oral microbiome that feeds the
Yeah.
gut?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, colloidal silver has been around for centuries, and what I like about colloidal silver is it doesn't kill the good bacteria. It only kills the bad bacteria. That's what's so wonderful about it is it's a great cleansing agent for the mouth. It's not alcohol based. It's not toxic for you. So, I think mine is very unique because not only does it use colloidal silver, I have in my mint and cinnamon mouthwash that is more for people that have those gum issues. I use something called raw croton lechleri sap. Other people know it as dragon's blood, and that's become because it comes from Peru's dragon tree. But it's like if you were to cut yourself and put the sap directly on your wound, it's like a liquid band-aid. So it's really wonderful for anything mouth related. Can help with receding gums. I've got CoQ10, myrrh, tea tree clove, black walnut hull. Those are in my mint and cinnamon, and then in my spearmint kind of geared that towards more for people that do have cavity issues. So it has nanohydroxyapatite, which your teeth are 97% hydroxyapatite crystals. So that means it's bioidentical to what your teeth are already made out of. It's got coconut oil, xylitol, very high in pH. So I tried to make something that, when someone would use it, it's actually going to be beneficial to them. It's not going to wipe out their oral microbiome. It's going to help support their oral health and it's clean. There's no toxic ingredients in there.
What do you think about those gums that now add that big long word that you said that you put in your mouth?
Nanohydroxy.
Yes, that one. But what do you think of that? The gums that have that in it and people
You
chew.
know, I'm not against it because people are kind of like freaking out saying, "Oh, don't have anything nanohydroxyapatite. It's going to cross your blood-brain barrier." Well, I have news for you. If that's what you're concerned about, you should rip out all your teeth because in your saliva, you are getting trace amounts of hydroxyapatite that's crossing your blood-brain barrier. So, I mean, it's nothing to be concerned about. I think people tend to, say, "Oh, you got to watch out for this," but it's just bioidentical. So it's not something foreign to your body. It's not anything that is harmful.
Yeah, I think that's the key is the bioidentical.
Yeah. But I'm all for chewing gum. I like xylitol gum because I feel the bad bacteria doesn't feed off of it and it helps raise the pH of the mouth. There's a lot of science on the support of xylitol when it comes to oral health. So I like things that have a lot of science behind it. And I'm very comfortable with xylitol gum for
Okay,
sure.
so I'm wondering about gum chewing and TMJ and jaw issues. And is chewing gum really okay? I wondered about that.
Well, if someone has, well, actually, everyone has TMJ. TMJ just means temporomandibular joint. TMD is dysfunction. So if someone has dysfunction of that joint, then they shouldn't probably be chewing gum. But there's mints. You can always suck on the mints if chewing gum is out of the question.
Great, thanks.
All right. Well, it is always a pleasure to have you on. We learned so much from this. Is there anything else that we've missed from our panel today that we wanted to cover with Heather the Hygienist?
Yeah, for something from me. So, Heather, you're really an expert in this oral health business. And when you make a recommendation for tongue scraping, which most people in the country probably have no idea about, we need to listen to that. You can get a tongue scraper for $10 and it lasts you the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
And so, people, if you're listening, get a tongue scraper and start doing it because it's going to make a big difference. And the other thing that really gets to me sometimes is that, the human being, we're so resilient and we can withstand decades of difficulty, smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, eating all the wrong foods, and then many other issues that I could mention. And the thing is, it's the same with oral health. If you don't take care of your mouth's health, then all the ill health is just going to compound and compound and compound. And it's really hard for everybody, the conventional medical community, some of the alternative community, to identify when oral health is the issue because most people don't know a clue about it. So we all want to listen to you and follow your instructions and what you tell us to do. It's really great. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome. Can I just say one quick analogy that maybe will skin for someone? I always compare.
As long as it's not another poop analogy.
No, it's not poop. It's a car analogy. It's a car. So you guys should be good.
We like that. Yeah, we like that.
So just like if we have a vehicle, we never get an oil change and we don't put oil into our car, what is going to happen to that car?
Yeah, it's not going to last long.
You're going to blow that engine at some point. That's an extremely expensive repair. Had you done your maintenance, you could have avoided. If you do not go to the dentist, if you do not take care of your mouth, you are going to expect to rebuild your engine at some point. It's very expensive. Dentistry is astronomical. Prevention is key. Prevention is inexpensive. So don't say, I can't afford to go to the dentist. You can't afford not to go because
the longer you let it go, the more expensive it is.
absolutely. Yes.
In a car, you can put a new engine in, but you really can't get all your natural teeth back and you can't get your natural gum function back.
And if you have all of your teeth extracted, your life expectancy goes down by 10 years. So it's very serious. Yeah.
Wow.
Very serious.
Right. But what I also like today is, what you talked about is also there's many common issues that people are dealing with, energy, the GERD, the acid reflux, inflammation in the body that are all tied to the mouth. And that simply by helping to balance that oral microbiome, you can positively impact all.
Well, I wish hospitals would get a hold of this information because they could save millions and millions of dollars every year because they don't brush patients' teeth and then they end up being vented. Do you know if they just brushed everyone's teeth that the chances of them being vented go down significantly?
What's vented for our audience?
That when they can't breathe on their own.
Ventilator.
Yeah, being ventilated. Yeah. So someone, if they can't breathe on their own, right, that is extreme expense to the hospital. But brushing and getting rid of that bacteria helps them not get pneumonia, helps them not be on a vent just from brushing their teeth. But when you go to the hospital and you have a loved one there that's there for a significant amount of time, see how many times their teeth get brushed.
Right. Yeah, I bet. It's not a high priority, I don't think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it should be. Save them a lot of money.
Well, it's almost like if you have a fort and you have the front door of the fort, that's what the mouth is. And so if the front door is not keeping all the bad stuff out, then it's just going to come in and contaminate the rest of the body, like you say. Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. And we really need to wake up to oral health, I think. That's what I think.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and educating us. And there's so much to learn. I encourage all of our listeners to go back and listen to the first two of this series on oral health. Such great information. And also, Heather, thank you for expanding our audience to 10-year-old boys talking about poop. That's always a great thing.
Big cars.
And now you brought it in cars, so now we're bringing the age up a little bit. But yeah, that's
now
great.
If we can get it into Barbie dolls, we'll have everybody.
We'll have everyone covered. But yeah,
What?
thank you so much. And the message is clear. You've got to have both ecosystems really working together for a healthier body, and you'll really benefit from it. So, today we've learned that the mouth and the gut are truly partners in your health, and your mouth often speaks first. You see what I did there? Your mouth.
I like that, Breck. Nice.
Yeah. But, few habits can change for the positive, improve, like Tim was saying, your energy, which I think a lot of people are always looking for more energy. Your immunity is affected, your long-term well-being, if you just can change a few daily habits and take to heart some of the suggestions that Heather has shared with us. So again, thank you so much, Heather, for being our guest today and taking part in this powerful 3-part journey with us. And to all our listeners, make sure you subscribe to the Wellness Wave Club YouTube channel. also join our Facebook community, and you can connect with Heather there in the Facebook community because she is one of our experts. She is a group expert over oral health and leads that. She's the guide in that lane. So please
Very
share
good.
this episode.
Brett, can you say how people can connect with her on our Facebook group? Because just so they can know exactly how to do that. Is that all right?
Yeah, you just join the Facebook group, and tagged right at the top of the group is a little video that I've put out explaining exactly how to connect with our guides. So yeah, it's all right there at your fingertips, and all of the links are right there as well. So, but yeah, thanks for that. And then share this episode, please, with someone who needs better understanding of this and how these episodes can really help affect their overall health. And always remember, wellness, it's in you.